All right, welcome back to the 21 Boom Guided Meditation Series, and I will be your guide this evening. I am Coach Feeney. And so, to get started, as always, sit however is comfortable, your spine reasonably straight, and see if you can settle your attention into the body in an instant, and then become aware of the sensation of breathing. Gently close your eyes and let gravity settle you into your seat. Become aware of the sounds in the room where you're sitting. There's something about sound, perhaps even more than in other physical sensations, that clearly articulate the nature of consciousness. Its openness, the fact that the mind can't choose what it perceives, the ungovernability of the contents of consciousness. Things just appear and change and then vanish, all on their own. Notice that about sounds. Notice that you can't choose what to hear or whether to hear. Notice that you can't hold on to a sound for even an instant longer than it appears. There's no effort to make. Simply observe whatever appears on its own. And as you listen to sounds, let your mind grow wider and notice that there's no boundary anywhere. There's simply this space in which sounds and other sensations are appearing. If you feel that you are in the center of this space, doing the listening, directing your attention, or struggling to pay attention, see if you can feel that whole effort, the whole constellation of energy as itself an appearance in consciousness. Otherwise, how else would you notice if it weren't an appearance in consciousness? Let awareness simply be this space in which everything, including any apparent efforts, any apparent locus of attention, is appearing and changing. As you listen to sounds and perhaps feel the breath, notice anything that seems to define you as a subjective agent, as a self. Where do you take yourself to be in this moment? Is it the sensation of your face or your head? Resolve that these two are appearances in consciousness, and consciousness is prior to them, a mere witness of them. Continually fall back into that position of just being the screen upon which the movie of your life is being played. Now open your eyes and notice first that the sense of something has changed. The world has come rushing in, that you're no longer inside, but now attention is outside. This too is an illusion. There's no inside and outside of consciousness. Everything is simply appearing. Now we have color and shadow, but this is the same space in which you hear the sound of my voice or feel the breath. And then when you're ready to, you can close your eyes again if that feels right. And then take a moment to reflect on the state of your mind and what are you worried about? What have you been busy doing? What feels unresolved? Without going into details, take this whole constellation of thought and reflect for a moment that it is all thought. That's the only way you can invoke the past or future. And for the next 10 minutes, just resolve that there's nothing you need to think of. Simply put it all down and bring your attention to the present and let it settle on the sensation of breathing wherever you feel it most distinctly. In the moment you notice a thought has arisen, look into the thought itself. Where does it go? Where is it? Even while it persists, and then come back to the breath. If you find any particular thought arising again and again, you might take a moment to consciously think the thoughts and invoke it on purpose, visualize what it is, or reiterate the language in your mind. But in doing that, focus on it as an object in consciousness, very much like the breath or a sound. And see if you can exhaust its energy this way. Notice too any emotions that arise along with it and feel these purely as energy in the body, whether it's anxiety or pleasure. Feel these states too as appearances in consciousness. Then you can leave your mind wide open. In the last minute of the session, focus again on the breath as though for the first time, following each inhalation and exhalation continuously. take a moment to feel how it is you feel. However, that session went, it might very well be the only 10 minutes in your day that you set aside to pay careful attention to the nature of your own mind. It is a training, and whether it feels good or difficult in any given session, the effort you make here does change your mind. It physically changes your brain as any training would. And you're developing here a new capacity to respond differently to experience. So notice first what it is you're experiencing, and then to introduce an option beyond merely reacting, merely being captured by the next thought that arises in consciousness. And once again, thank you for your practice. As I'm sure you have begun to notice as well, that some of these sessions are more guided and more intrusive to the kinds of insights that I'm directing you towards, and some are more open, or I leave much more silence. And of course, I'm sure that will continue. And needless to say, I hope you find both approaches useful as we continue onward here. And I'd like you to take a moment to think about all of the things in this life that you will experience for the last time. Of course, there will come a day when we all will perish, and then everything will have been done for the last time. But long before that happens, you will cease to have certain experiences, and experiences which you surely take for granted now. If you're a parent, when is the last time you will pick up your child, or tuck them in the bed, or read them a story? And then now thinking in this way leads a poignancy to everything, even the things that you don't like. Again, let's say you're a new parent and you're getting woken up several times a night by the baby, and that's brutal. But there will be a last time, and knowing that can change your experience in the moment. There's something sweet even about this experience. It's possible that you will miss this. We do everything a finite number of times, and yet we tend to take even beautiful moments for granted. And the rest of the time, we're just trying to get through stuff. You're just trying to get to the end of whatever experience you're having. Tim Urban, who writes this wonderful blog titled Wait, But Why, often touches this subject. He actually publishes a poster which represents 90 years of life in weeks. Each line is 52 squares, and there are 90 lines on a single page. And the scale is frankly a little alarming to contemplate. Each week is a significant piece of 90 years. And you can put your finger on the current week of your life, and you can see where you are. Then, of course, you realize you have no assurance of how many weeks you have left. Assuming that you have 90 years, certainly 90 good years, is generally not a safe assumption. What you can know, however, is that each time you do something pleasant or unpleasant, that is one last time you'll do it. And there will come a time where you'll have done something the final time, and you will rarely know when that is. And we all might live many, many more years, and yet these moments, they stand a good chance of being the last time you would do any of them. As you go about your day, today or tomorrow, consider everything you're doing is like this. Everything represents a finite opportunity to savor your life. On some level, everything is precious. And if it doesn't seem that way, I think you'll find that paying more attention can make it seem that way. Attention really is your true source of wealth, even more than time, right? Because you can waste time being distracted. So this is just to urge you to take a little more care. When you meet someone for the first time, you shake their hand, pay a little more attention. When you thank somebody for something, mean it a little more and connect with your life. And mindfulness is the tool that allows you to do that. Because the only alternative is to be lost in thought. And every time that you notice that you're lost and that you're distracted by a thought about the past or the future, you come back and you're training your mind, and it may feel like an effort at first, but eventually it's like continually waking up from a dream. Ask yourself, how much effort does that take? Don't meditate because it's good for you. Many people are at first skeptical about the benefits of meditation. They find their skepticism relieved when they hear that meditation changes the brain, and there are areas of the brain that physically change size in response to meditation. Undoubtedly, new connections are made and others are diminished, and in addition to structural changes, there are functional ones. And there does seem to be more or less a linear relationship between the changes of this kind and the amount of time a person has spent practicing. And this information is interesting, and I will certainly discuss it in other contexts, but the truth is, virtually anything you do changes your brain. The fact that you had breakfast this morning and that you can remember it changed your brain. And of course, learning any complex skill requires that your brain physically alters its structure. That is what learning is at the level of the brain. So saying that meditation changes the brain is not to say that it's special or that it's good for you. Most things that are bad for you also change your brain. Of course, there's a growing literature on the benefits of meditation, and I will talk about it from time to time, but I want to suggest that there's nothing likely to appear in that literature that represents the deepest reason why one should meditate. For instance, there's studies that suggest that meditation improves immune function or reduces stress, or that it's associated with less age-related thinning of the cerebral cortex. While having a good immune system and reducing stress and not suffering neurodegeneration are good things in general, but those studies might fail to replicate tomorrow. And should that happen, my recommendations in this and following along with me would not change at all. There really are deeper reasons to meditate and to live and examine life in general. Meditation is a skill that opens doors that you might not otherwise know exist. And to say that you should do this because it reduces stress or confers any other ancillary benefit is really to miss the point. Consider an analogy to reading. Is reading good for you? Does it reduce stress? Do you see what's peculiar about that framing? Given how profound the difference is between being an avid reader and being illiterate, these are strange questions. Just think about it. Does reading reduce stress? It sort of depends on what you read, right? Is it good for you? Well, I think we can all imagine scenarios where it's not good to somebody in any kind of straightforward way. But reading is one of the most important skills our species has ever acquired. Almost everything we care about depends on it. Of course, mindfulness is a very different sort of skill, but it also has sweeping implications. The other way to think about this is that you are always meditating on something. Your attention is always bound up in something. We largely become what we pay attention to. We are building our minds in each moment. We're building habits and desires and worries and expectations and prejudices and insights. And mindfulness is just the ability to notice this process with clarity and to then prioritize what you pay attention to. Why not pay attention to those things that make you a better person? Why not free your attention from all of the trivial things that are clamoring for it? Let's say you pick up your phone or check your email, and at that moment, somebody's telling you a story. Now, several things are possible. You could be so lost in your thoughts about your email, and you can find the urge to respond to it so compelling that you don't even notice when someone's talking to you, or you can notice about only to rebuff that person in a way that makes them feel terrible, and you might be so entranced that 5 minutes later you wouldn't even recall that this episode occurred. That's how most people live their lives. In fact, that's how most of us live most of our lives, even after we learn how to meditate. But the more you train in the practice, the more degrees of freedom you'll find in situations like this. You can notice, for instance, that someone is trying to get your attention, and that giving them your attention is in competition with your following this urge to check email. And when actual mindfulness comes online, you can feel the urge to check your email as a pattern of energy in your body and simply let it go. You can actually break the link between the feeling and the behavioral imperative it seems to communicate. It's true that one way to get rid of this feeling is to check your email, but another way is to simply let go of it. And only mindfulness allows you to do the latter, and then you can direct your attention to whoever is standing in front of you. And it might be the only story that they will tell you that day, and you can be aware of this fact in that moment. You can feel the poignancy of that, and in that moment, you can further ingrain this new habit. You can become the kind of person who is fully present in moments like that, and you become that kind of person, not just for yourself, but by changing your brain, but in this case, for the people that matter to you by changing their brain. And this is just a 30-second slice of life. When you learn to meditate, there are literally hundreds, even thousands of moments like this throughout the day. These are choice points that wouldn't otherwise exist. These are paths taken and not taken for good reason. But without free attention, there's no place for good reasons to land. And as you grow in mindfulness, you begin to notice that the lies you can no longer tell, and you begin to have insights into your true motives in various situations that are sometimes not flattering. But you want these insights all the same, because how else can you become a better person? That is what it is to live and examine life. So don't meditate just because it's good for you. It's more important than you might think, and more important than that.